spending a few days exploring Nikko, we began a road trip to northern Japan. The trip would take us through the beautiful Japanese countryside, with rolling hills, distant mountains and volcanoes, and to some of the most unique destinations in the country. But first, we had to rent our little car, and after being told repeatedly not to drive on the right-hand side of the road, we were off on the first leg of the trip. After driving for a couple of hours, we arrived at the historic mountain town of Ouchi-Juku, located in the Fukushima prefecture. The town was primarily used as a small post station during Japan's Edo period. Travelers and processions of feudal lords would stay here as they journeyed the road connecting Nikko to Aizu. As tired travelers ourselves, with some hungry girls, Lisa included, we also decided to make a pit stop here. The town largely remains unchanged from the Edo period, with thatched roof houses and natural streets giving you a real feel of what it was like hundreds of years ago. As much as we enjoyed our short visit to Ouchi-Juku, it was cold and rainy, so we quickly departed and continued our journey north. After driving 6 hours, we finally arrived at our Airbnb in the mountains surrounding the small town of Zao, where we would stay for the next couple of days.
Whoa, those are quite the pine cones.
The mountain town of Zao is internationally known as one of the most snowy ski resorts in the world. During the winter, people venture to these mountains to see the infamous snow monsters. These creatures are created from a natural phenomenon where ice clings to the fir trees, forming all sorts of shapes. Since we were visiting Zao during early fall, we didn't have a chance to see these creatures for ourselves. But fortunately, there's a village where they keep monsters of the red, fluffy variety. This strange, yet very much so Japanese attraction has hundreds of foxes wandering around their grounds. After purchasing our tickets, we entered into the world of red foxes. Since these are wild animals, we were asked to carry the girls and not to touch the foxes. I guess they're not pet dogs after all. We wandered the area and came to an enclosed platform where you could feed the foxes. Just outside of the fox enclosure, they kept food for the foxes that we were allowed to touch and play with. Perhaps one of the strangest things we encountered at the Fox Village was when they brought out foxes for people to hold. we watched as people held these foxes like little babies. It was getting a little too wild and strange for us, so we decided to head back home to our Airbnb for the night. The next morning, we packed our bags and continued on a road trip to Sendai. The drive was beautiful and took us through some farms in the Japanese countryside. After a couple of hours, we arrived to the Yamadera Shrine, which is situated in the mountains just above the city of Yamagata. The shrine was founded over 1,000 years ago in 860 as a temple of the Tendai sect of Buddhism. The name Yamadera literally means mountain temple in Japanese, which, come to think of it, should have been a red flag of things to come. Like most Japanese shrines, Yamadera makes you work to enjoy the temple grounds, which in this case meant climbing 1,000 stairs to the top of the temple. We threw on our backpacks with the girls in tow and began the trek up the mountainside. After passing through the wooded area, we arrived at the temple grounds atop the mountain. After taking a break and letting the girls stretch their legs, we grabbed some dango and wandered around enjoying the first signs of fall. We made our way to a viewing platform at the far end of Yamadera and enjoyed the views of the valley below.
Beyond gravel, beyond a bigger scale, the world in hand.
Following our spiritual journey up the mountain, we were hungry and stopped in at a cafe at the base of Yamadera. The small cafe sat alongside the river, and we enjoyed some cold ramen as Savannah slept soundly in the backpack.
Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes.
After lunch, we loaded up in our car again and drove another 2 hours to the magical town of Ginzan Onsen.
Beyond gravel, beyond
Ginzan Onsen is a small high-end resort tucked away in the mountains. It's small and quiet, and a popular getaway for local tourists looking for an escape from Japan's large cities. With a creek flowing through the center of the town and traditional Japanese buildings on both sides, it's easy to see why people come here to vacation and to relax. The town is known for its onsens, or hot springs, and we saw people strolling down the street in their traditional yukatas, or Japanese robes, going from bath to bath. Since it was late in the afternoon and the girls were tired and cranky, to say it lightly, we quickly strolled through the town for a quick tour. To make Ginzan Onsen even more heavenly, there is a waterfall at the far end of the village. We enjoyed the natural beauty of this place, and after a short stroll, we whisked away Savannah and Abby to make the final push to our hotel for the night. We ended our long day by arriving at the Kamae Hotel, which is a traditional Japanese ryokan. These hotels are known for their tatami rooms with futons, onsens or natural hot springs, as well as their full-service meals. I know this all sounds incredible, and it did to us when we planned it as well, but at this point in the trip, Savannah was full-on constipated and Abby was sleep-deprived, meaning that these enjoyable moments at this hotel were very short-lived. We made our way to dinner for the night, where they had an incredible meal for us. But with screaming children, it didn't last too long, as you can tell by Lisa's all too happy face. During the meal, they prepared the futons in the room, so once we returned, everything was ready for bed. After our full day, we turned in quickly and crossed our fingers that we would get a full night's sleep. Early the next morning, after not getting a full night of sleep, surprise, surprise, I threw on my yukata and made my way to one of the public onsens. Since this was my first time going to an onsen, it was a fun yet intimidating experience. There's a reason for that. There's lots of rules and traditions with how to treat public baths in Japan. First, you must shower and clean yourself before entering the onsen. I'll demonstrate this now. Just kidding, no butts on YouTube. Second, onsens are generally separated by gender since, well, you're buck naked. It's weird at first, but after a while, you get used to seeing old men naked. Never thought I'd say that. Fortunately for all of you, I was the only old man there, and I'll spare you any selfies. Onsens are very relaxing, and since they are unique from place to place in Japan, it's always fun to experience them for yourself. After being rejuvenated by my first onsen experience, we packed our bags and headed downstairs for our prepared breakfast. The girls were slightly less cranky, so we were able to enjoy our meal. Following breakfast, we headed out for our final day of our road trip. We headed to the nearby Naruku Gorge, which is famous for its fall colors.
So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, I can't believe you love me. I just feel so lucky.
There were definitely lots of ups and downs during a road trip through the heart of Japan, but overall it was an incredible, or at least a memorable experience with the girls. We were excited, however, to leave the rental car behind and explore the awesome city of Sendai.
You know I'm here to stay every single day. Yeah.